Good evening, it's Wednesday the 5th of November and here's what's making news around the world on World News Tonight. Rail disaster. Passenger train slams into cargo train in central India, killing more than 10 and injuring dozens. Ceasefire exchange. Israel receives the remains of another hostage from Gaza amid ongoing US-brokered truce. Cave revival. Once a foul-smelling sewer system, Kentucky's hidden river cave now a tourist attraction.
From Colombo, this is World News Tonight with Sithmi Adhikari.
Good evening and thank you once again for joining us on World News Tonight on Derana News Channel. A local passenger train collided from behind into a cargo train near Bilaspur in India's Chhattisgarh state yesterday, killing at least 11 people and injuring around 20. Among the dead was the train's driver, while the co-driver remains critically injured.
The collision occurred between Gathura and Bilaspur stations when a passenger train travelling from Gevra to Bilaspur rammed a cargo train ahead. One of the passenger carriages ended up mounted on top of a cargo wagon. Rescue teams used iron cutters to extract victims after several hours. The deceased include the passenger train's driver and the co-driver. A woman is critically injured and hospitalized. About 20 people were hurt and are being treated. The operator Indian Railways has launched an inquiry and announced financial aid for families of the dead and injured. Rail accidents remain a serious challenge in India despite efforts to modernize signalling and infrastructure. With more than 12 million passengers traveling each day and thousands of trains operating across tens of thousands of kilometers of track, incidents of human error, outdated signals, or maintenance shortfalls continue to cost lives.
Now an update from the Philippines of Typhoon Kalmegi. It has as of today killed dozens in the central Philippines after unleashing torrential rains and storm surges across the Visayas region, including serious flooding on Cebu Island. Authorities evacuated more than 200,000 people and are now bracing as the storm moves towards Vietnam.
Homes reduced to ruins. Cars piled on top of each other, and roads submerged in flood waters. This is the trail of destruction left by Typhoon Kalmegi after it lashed the central Philippines, killing dozens. Among the dead were 6 personnel on a military helicopter, which crashed during a rescue mission on the island of Mindanao. A regional official said search and rescue efforts were underway for missing and unaccounted-for individuals. Residents said raging flood waters reached scary levels as Kalmegi made landfall early on Tuesday.
We were really anxious because the longer the rains continued, the higher the flood waters rose. It even reached half of our second floor. We initially stayed on the first floor, but when the waters rose, we went to our second floor. Yet the waters kept rising, so we decided to head up to our roof.
Kalmegi brought wind gusts of over 100 miles per hour, knocking down trees and power lines. More than 200,000 people were evacuated across the Visayas region. Flooding in Cebu City has since mostly subsided, but power remains out in many places. Kalmegi is now headed towards Vietnam, where it is expected to make landfall on Friday.
A devastating avalanche struck near the base camp of Yalung Ri in Nepal's Rolvailing Valley, killing at least 7 climbers, including 5 foreign nationals, and leaving several others missing. Rescue teams are battling poor weather and deep snow to reach victims amid high-altitude conditions.
The avalanche occurred in the Dolakha district when an expedition of roughly 15 climbers was ascending. Officials say 5 foreigners and 2 Nepali guides were killed, while others remain missing. Rescue operations have been severely hampered by stormy conditions. Helicopters were grounded initially due to heavy snow and cloud cover, forcing ground teams from the army and police to trek in on foot through unstable terrain. This incident underscores the risks of high-altitude climbing, even on peaks considered less technical. Unusually unstable snowpack and deteriorating weather in the region have raised questions about timing and expedition safety protocols for autumn climbs.
China has announced that its visa-free entry policy for citizens of 45 countries, including South Korea, will be extended until December 31st, 2026. Eligible travelers will be able to visit China for stays up to 30 days for tourism or business under the revised rules.
China has extended its visa-free entry policy for South Korean nationals for another year. This allows a short-term stay of up to 30 days for tourism, business, or family visits until December 31st, 2026. The announcement was made by China's foreign ministry as part of a plan to make travel more convenient and strengthen international exchanges.
To facilitate cross-border travel between Chinese and foreign nationals, China has decided to extend the visa-free policy for France and several other countries until December 31st, 2026.
The extension applies to 45 countries that were already covered by the temporary visa-free policy, including South Korea, Japan, France, and others. Adding to the list, China will expand the policy to include Sweden starting from November 10th. Analysts say this decision reflects positive momentum in bilateral relations between South Korea and China following the recent summit talks between the country's leaders on the sidelines of the APEC economic leaders meeting in Gyeongju. South Korea has also been implementing its own temporary visa-free policy for Chinese group tourists since last September to encourage reciprocal tourism and improve people-to-people exchanges.
Let's go in for a short commercial break. More world news coming right after this. Welcome back. Israeli authorities announced yesterday that they have received the remains of what is believed to be a dead hostage from Gaza, delivered via International Committee of the Red Cross under US-brokered ceasefire that began on October 10th. The transfer marks another step into the delicate process of recovering bodies and sustaining the truce.
In Israel on Tuesday, authorities said they received the remains of what is believed to be a dead hostage from Gaza under the US-brokered ceasefire that began last month. Officials said the coffin was transferred via the Red Cross in Gaza and taken to Israel's National Forensic Center in Tel Aviv for identification. If confirmed, it would leave 7 deceased hostages still in Gaza. The transfer follows earlier body returns on Sunday and last Thursday. Under the deal, 20 living and 28 deceased hostages were to be returned within 72 hours. All living hostages were freed on 13th of October in exchange for 250 prisoners and 1,718 detainees. Israel has also handed over the bodies of 270 Palestinians in previous exchanges linked to the truce. Authorities say coordination with the Red Cross will continue to identify and recover remaining bodies while the ceasefire remains in place.
A devastating accident occurred near Louisville Muhammad Ali International Airport in Kentucky when a UPS Airlines McDonnell Douglas MD-11 cargo plane crashed and exploded shortly after takeoff yesterday, killing at least 7 people, including all 3 crew members, and injuring 11 others on the ground.
The images are horrifying. A fireball engulfing a cargo plane as it slides, crashing just meters from the runway.
Oh my God!
5:14 p.m. at Louisville's Muhammad Ali Airport, and you can see flames leaping from under the wing of the MD-11, which had only just taken off.
I think it's gonna crash, bro.
Then, disaster. The aircraft smashes into industrial sites.
Holy
Horror for those who watched it unfold. From cars, dash cams capture the moment the plane goes down. The explosion seen from buildings kilometres away. The plane leaving a trail of fire and destruction. Witnesses say debris rained down.
Yeah, we found this and it fell out of the sky.
This is UPS Flight 2976 on a flight tracker. It was loaded with more than 140,000 litres of jet fuel bound for Hawaii. 3 people were on board. There were more victims on the ground. The blaze from the crash burning well into the night. People within an 8-kilometre radius were told to stay indoors. Louisville, Kentucky is a global hub for UPS, the US parcel service. Staff frantically messaging each other.
Sadly, some of those texts are probably going to go unanswered.
Tonight, debris and damage, a possible clue for investigators as they try to answer how this could happen.
In a landmark result, 34-year-old Zohran Mamdani was elected mayor of New York City, becoming the city's youngest and first Muslim head, defeating former Governor Andrew Cuomo. A self-described democratic socialist, Mamdani's victory sends a pointed message to President Donald Trump and signals a shift in the urban political landscape.
My friends, we have toppled a political dynasty.
New York's new mayor, the youngest in a century.
The future is in our hands.
34-year-old Zohran Mamdani, a Muslim democratic socialist, he turned this race on its head, campaigning on the promise of affordability funded by tax increases on New York's most wealthy.
Communist, not socialist, communist. He's far worse than a socialist.
Mamdani's only real opponent, Andrew Cuomo, the former governor of New York. The Blue Wash continued in key races in the US states of Virginia and New Jersey. 2 more Democrats elected to the office of governor. From the US president, Trump wasn't on the ballot. Tonight, the city that never sleeps, preparing for a changing of the guard.
So Donald Trump, since I know you're watching,
in a major diplomatic shakeup, Peru's government announced it is severing diplomatic relations with Mexico after former Peruvian Prime Minister Betsy Chavez, accused of involvement in former President Pedro Castillo's failed 2022 dissolution of Congress, sought refuge in the Mexican embassy in Lima. Peru's foreign minister labelled Mexico's action as interference, while Mexico defended the asylum offer under international law.
This is a building where former Peruvian Prime Minister Betsy Chavez has sought asylum, creating a diplomatic rupture between Peru and Mexico. Chavez faces charges of fomenting a rebellion in Peru. She fled to the Mexican embassy in Lima on Monday. Peruvian authorities are furious that Mexico is sheltering her.
In response to this unfriendly act, and considering the repeated instances in which the current and former presidents of that country have intervened in Peru's internal affairs, the Peruvian government has decided to break off diplomatic relations with Mexico.
Chavez stands accused of taking part in a failed coup attempt. In 2022, then-President Pedro Castillo declared a state of emergency, attempting to dissolve Peru's parliament to prevent an impeachment vote against him on charges of corruption. Peruvian authorities accuse Betsy Chavez of acting as an accomplice. She faces up to 25 years in prison if convicted. Mexico's left-leaning leader, Claudia Sheinbaum, has previously expressed support for Pedro Castillo and has offered asylum to his wife and children. A statement from Mexico's foreign ministry defended the country's decision to shield Chavez.
Mexico rejects Peru's unilateral decision as excessive and disproportionate in response to a legitimate act by Mexico consistent with international law, which in no way constitutes intervention in Peru's internal affairs.
Pedro Castillo is in Peruvian custody, facing up to 34 years in prison if convicted. The former teacher and trade union leader denies the allegations.
Time for a short break now. We'll be right back with more world news. Welcome back. In Horse Cave, Kentucky, the underground hidden river cave, once used for raw sewage and waste disposal for decades, has been transformed into a major tourist attraction following a long-term cleanup project that began with a modern sewer system installed in 1989 and led to tours inside 10 miles of passageways today.
Comeback story of Horse Cave, Kentucky begins far below its streets.
This is right under Main Street.
In this hidden river cave, for decades the place wasn't a wonder. It was a waste dump.
Everybody was sick of the smell.
Former Mayor Sandra Wilson remembers when the cave was part of the sewer system. And yet, surprising as it may seem, her desire to modernize the infrastructure here and clean up the cave was met with fierce resistance.
We had a lot of people who were wary of rising sewer prices. The goal was to create the sewer system to clean up the mess, period.
While the people in town fought over sewers, David Foster of the American Cave Conservation Association had a solution: convincing the people of Horse Cave to enact new sewer fees to pay for the cleanup. Today, 10 miles of passageways are open to visitors. The most unique stretch is also the shakiest part. Stairs, the trails, the museum cost an additional $6 million, which came from donations. But the investment paid off. Last year, 30,000 visitors came to this town of just 3,000.
In a remarkable survival story, 65-year-old hunter Ron Daly was found alive after being missing for 20 days in California's Sierra National Forest. Initially meant for a half-day trip on October 13th, his vehicle became inoperable, a storm struck, and after abandoning the truck, he hiked for hours until encountering hunters 20 days later.
This man is setting off on what he planned as an enjoyable half-day excursion in the woods. It turned into a 3-week nightmare that left him fighting for his life.
I go, Lord, I'm not ready to die.
65-year-old Ron Daly went on the solo hunting trip in the Sierra National Forest in central California, but he says he took a wrong trail and his pickup truck couldn't make it back up the hill. Then a storm hit, covering his truck with 2 feet of snow.
I just stayed in the truck, sat in my driver's seat, and started my truck up 2 or 3 times that night to stay warm.
Daly says he waited for the snow to melt, but the days passed with no luck. He started to ration what little food he had.
I'd eat. The Lord touched me on the forehead in the morning at 6:45 in the morning. I woke up. He goes, "Get your boots on. Let's go. We're going to be walking."
9 hours later, he ran into 3 hunters.
I looked up, and there was a truck about 100 yards from me.
This photo shows him being loaded into an ambulance. Daly's daughter recorded the message he left her from the hospital.
I raised my head up. There's a car with headlights on it. And I go, oh God, thank you, Lord.
A 20-day nightmare with a happy ending.
And with that, we come to the end of today's edition of World News Tonight. With the hopes of seeing you again, I'm Sitmi Adhikari, and we leave you tonight with the visuals of royal grandeur meeting vibrant life across London. Also, don't forget to send us your feedback through email at feedback.adncenglish@theran.lk or via WhatsApp at 076 805 7933. Thank you for watching World News Tonight on Adharan News Channel. Have a good night.